Today we're talking fall to winter transition bass fishing. Yes, you can still catch bass during this time of the year. So we're going to tell you everything you need to know before winter freeze, how to catch bass during this time of the year. Here we go. First, you need to be flexible and think like a bass this winter to improve your fishing success rate. I'm sure you've all heard the myths that you can't catch bass in winter. You might as well put away your bass gear until the spring once all the leaves are off the trees. But that's because bass are cold-blooded and their metabolism slows and their feeding patterns follow. But it's true they get more sluggish in winter and in colder water and weather temps, but they still feed. It's just a little bit more selective than in the summer and spring. So we're going to cover the main techniques and tips that you need to target sluggish bass, giving them an extra incentive to chase your bait and make it worth it. Okay, strategy one is that bigger is not always better, especially when winter bass fishing. As we've mentioned, bass are not going to typically wildly chase huge prey down during this time of the year, so we need to downsize our presentations both with live bait and lures. So if you're using live bait and it still does work well, I would use live night crawlers and live emerald shiner minnows. But you got to make sure the bait is very lively or it likely won't work. So keep your worms in the refrigerator for a few days before you go fishing so they get nice and plump and firm, and that will be the extra edge you need. And if you're using minnows, make sure you've got a really good aerator pump with you, pumping in oxygen, and you're using a styrofoam bucket to allow for more airflow. By now, you probably know that the bass in your lake or pond have begun their transition out of shallow water and into the deeper pockets and pools of the lake where they'll spend the winter months. And when you find one, you will likely catch more because they tend to concentrate together in larger quantities during winter in the deepest parts of the lake. So you want to make sure you get your baits down to the bottom so you can increase your chances of putting it right in front of them so they don't have to go chasing it down because they likely won't. Obviously, they're in the deepest sections of the lake, and they want to be able to eat bottom-dwelling food sources down there. So I would use a drop shot rig or a football head jig, can usually get it down there and put it where the fish actually are. Bass are really no different than humans when it comes to the weather and the water in winter. We like to take hot showers in winter and have our gloves and boots on when we go out shoveling snow, right? It's the same for bass. They'll absolutely be moving slower in the winter water. Their body temperature's lower, and they're actively trying to conserve their energy for their 3-month winter hibernation. The key is to slow down your retrieve and your presentation. Get your bait down to the bottom, slow it down. They'll need a bit more time to see it and study it and determine if it's actually worth their time to bite it. So don't be in a hurry. Bass are not in as good a mood in the winter as they are in other months. Strategy 4 is probably the most overlooked concept when winter bass fishing. Again, we would rather go fishing or out on the boat on a nice, sunny, warm day. But that's not the right choice because it means you aren't thinking and acting like the bass you're after. The time you are most likely to catch bass in the winter is just before light breaks for the day. You already know that bass prefer to feed in low light conditions, and it's no different in the wintertime. So get out there early in the morning when it's bitter cold, and it'll increase your chances of catching winter bass. And the second way to improve your chances of catching winter bass is to fish on cloudy days, windy days, and just before a cold front or a rain front is coming through, because that is when bass will be more active. It's on these days more so than on a warm, bright, sunny day that they're moving into their winter homes. It may be more uncomfortable for you, but if you actually want to catch more bass, these strategies and techniques will help up your chances for success. So the first 4 strategies we've just covered won't even matter if you don't choose the right lure this time of year. My favorite is the jerkbait because bass need a little bit extra incentive, and many times it's that extra little twitch or two you put on the jerkbait after a longer pause that gets them to a strike. And just as good as the football head jig we mentioned earlier, these tend to imitate crawfish, so you probably want to use a green pumpkin or a brown color. And if the live minnows didn't work, you can try a shiny spoon or a bladed bait because that extra flash and vibration mimics a wounded bait fish. And sometimes that's just enough to trigger a strike from a lethargic winter bass. Go get 'em, gang. Good luck this winter. Okay, folks, thanks for watching. Please like this video, hit the subscribe button before you leave, and don't forget to enable your bell notifications so you never miss another great video coming your way.